Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. I'm Vanessa Gillette, and here with me is
Omar Pozos. What's going on, everybody?
Well, Omar, I'm feeling really grateful that we did, our area was able to be okay through the hurricane last week. I know we talked about that a little bit on the podcast last week, that we were preparing for the hurricane at that time. We were expecting it to really hit us directly. And of course, we're grateful that we didn't have to really do anything. Our family is safe. Our homes are safe. We're in a good spot. Our thoughts and our prayers do go out to our southern neighbors in more Southwest Florida, more the Fort Myers, Naples area, Sarasota area, where they really were heavily impacted. So if we have any listeners out there, just know that you are in our thoughts and our prayers. We have friends in the area who were affected, and we're really thinking of them right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like you said, very grateful. And we were super, super fortunate that we just got some mild rain and winds, but thank goodness nothing too serious, at least for us up here. Just very, like you said, very grateful to, have gone through that, but been really lucky of kind of how things worked out.
Yeah. But so, we're able to dive right back into our normal recording schedule. So a new episode for you guys this week. And this episode is really going to speak to my ladies out there. Omar, when I first shared this topic with him, he was like, what? I don't understand. I don't follow.
So, what's the title of the episode then?
Well, I wanted to share that I want to do an episode of what Gucci has to do with fat loss, because clearly there's a link between Gucci and fat loss. At least in my world, there is.
And people are like, what in the heck are they talking about?
Only you would be like, what in the heck?
Oh, maybe. When you said Gucci, I was thinking, I don't know if our listeners or you listen to much rap, but Gucci Mane, the artist or the rapper. I'm like, what does Gucci Mane has to do with fat loss? Yeah. He did lose a ton of weight, so hey, who knows?
Well, yeah, maybe we need to get him on the podcast.
Oh my God, that'd be funny.
Yeah, but so anyway, I'm sure our listeners are now probably wondering, what does Gucci have to do with fat loss? Well, let me explain. So, my dear listener, my Fitcaster, do you remember the time that you went to Gucci? You went to the beautiful Gucci store. You walked in, you picked out a bag. You thought, oh my gosh, that's the most beautiful bag I've ever seen. I want it right now. You grabbed it. You went up to the sales girl, the register. You went ahead, handed over your credit card, and you walked home with that bag. Do you remember that time? No, you probably don't, because guess what? If you did that, you would also walk away and you might check your bank account. I don't know necessarily who you are and what your bank account looks like, but when you just buy things on a whim and you don't have any kind of thought ahead about it, you aren't aware of where your budget is at, and you're just putting things on credit cards constantly, it's going to bite you in the butt eventually. You're going to end up in a bad situation financially, and you could end up being that person who is shocked to find out that after they bought the bag, they're like, oh, whoops, I actually couldn't afford to buy that bag right now.
Or whoops, I can't pay my rent now, or I can't buy groceries because of it. And essentially just not a very good financial way to go about things, right?
Yeah. And so, if you're listening to this podcast, I already know that you're a growth-minded person, that you are into bettering yourself, that you want to be the best version possible of yourself, because you don't listen to this type of content if you are not of that mindset. So if you're listening to this, I would bet that you probably have never done that. And you probably could not relate to that little made-up story I just told. Because the reality is...
You mean you've never done that?
No. The reality is that, yes, I like nice designer things. And, I'm sure there's probably some listeners out there that also like to have some nice designer things here and there. And the reality is that if you're going to have stuff like that, you have to be responsible. You have to just actually be aware of where your finances are at, what you can afford, where your budget is at. And you can't just live in this land of money make-believe, right? What do you actually do if you want to buy a nice bag? At least this is for me. When I personally decide, you know what? Oh, I want that Gucci bag. It's beautiful. I'm going to have it. I set that as a goal. What do? I don't just go and just drop a credit card and buy it right there on the spot the first moment I decide that I would like to have it. No, I figure out how much that bag costs. Then I take a look at my budget. I see kind of where I'm at with things, where I have some room left to spend on nice gifts for myself. And then I create a strategy from where I'm at now to where I want to be of how much do I need to save on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis to get to that point where I can then buy myself the nice bag. It's the exact same thing with fat loss, you guys. Exact same thing. if I don't love how I look and feel in my body, if I decide, you know what, it's time for me to lose some weight, I'm going into a fat loss phase. Like if I decide I'm going to do that, I don't just go about my week and my days completely normal, not changing a single thing. And then just like a couple weeks later be like, oh, where are my results? Why haven't I lost any weight? No, I create a budget for my eating essentially. Just like I do when I decide I want to buy the bag, I have to plan for it. So what do I do? Just like with money, we have to look at how much we're eating. We have to look at how much we're making to be able to buy a bag. We have to look at how much we're eating in order to achieve fat loss. So I'm going to figure out, number one, how much am I currently consuming on average on a daily basis? And a lot of people screw up with this where they might only track Monday through Friday. And they might be like, oh my gosh, I'm only eating, 1,000 calories, 1,200 calories, 1,500 calories. Like I should be losing weight. But they don't take into account the weekends where they're going out to eat. They're just like drinking a lot of alcohol or doing different things. They're not tracking that. They're not being aware of that. And they might be over consuming. We want to know how much are we actually having on average on that weekly basis. And then from there, I can actually figure out what is my strategy to get from where I'm at now to where I want to be. How much do I need to budget, quote unquote, in order to save those calories essentially so that I can achieve that goal of losing weight and feeling good in my body. Because if I overshoot, if I, save too much money per week, just like if I'm budgeting for the designer bag, if I'm like, okay, the way I need to get there is I need to save $100 a week. But if I'm only making $200 a week, and if I'm then taking, $150 of that and using that towards like gas and food and all these different things, I simply don't have enough money to save that $100 per week. And so if I try to do that, I'm going to affect my life elsewhere. Same thing with our nutrition. If we are now saying, okay, you know what, to get to where I want to be, I read in this like random magazine I saw at the grocery store that in order to lose 4 pounds a week, I need to just cut my calories down by 1,000 and just eat this like meal plan I found online. And you try and do that, and guess what? You don't lose weight. You just feel like crap after a few weeks. That's because you overshot. You didn't actually plan strategically. You saved, and I'm using save like in quotations because it's not the same connotation here. But for this analogy, we're saving calories, we're cutting calories, we overshot it, and we saved too much, and now we feel like crap.
Yeah. And if I'm understanding you correctly, Vanessa, at the end of the day, in order for people to start working towards their health and fitness goals, to start making progress towards all that, they have to, what you're saying is they have to understand, one, how much is it that they're consuming, and how much should they be consuming in order to get them to where they want to go, right? And again, it's not a one size fits all like we've always talked about. It all depends on every person, their goals, their dieting history, and their own bodies. Is that right?
Exactly. And it's just, you have to get to know your body.
Yeah.
I was using this example of like, okay, if I suddenly decide one day I want to lose weight, and then I, to get there, how I'm going to go about the fat loss phase. But the reality is, if we zoom out, we take a wider lens look at this, the journey of weight loss, there's more involved in that. There are phases. We have the fat loss phase, but a lot of times we need to also go through that reverse diet phase to restore our metabolism, get our hormone health in order. And at the tail end of that, we typically need to go through a maintenance phase, which really is still part of that process of restoring the metabolism, improving our health, improving our hormone markers. All these different things need to be in a good spot in order to get the result we want. And if we are a little bit impatient and we just jump right into the fat loss phase because we're like, well, I want to lose weight yesterday, so I'm just going to, skip all that and jump right in, it can actually set you up for making this just a much longer journey. Because if you had been patient and said, okay, I'm going to go about this the right way, I'm going to spend time restoring my metabolism, then I'm going to spend time maintaining there to make sure I can actually maintain these things. And during that maintenance phase, I'm going to work on my habits and behaviors. I'm going to work on my mindset. I'm going to work on these things that are going to set me up for a smoother fat loss phase. Then when you do get into the fat loss phase, the fat melts off like butter. And I've seen this happen over and over and over again with our clients. Yet I still also see many times happening, especially from women who don't end up becoming our clients because maybe they are just feeling like, you know what, I'm going to do this myself because I feel like there's got to be, this like quick fat loss solution out there. So I'm going to try that. And then they just jump from one thing to the next thing to the next thing.
Yeah.
And then they come back a year, 2 years later, and then they still need our help. But a lot of times they're in a worse off solution. And I just wish they had really started working with us the very first time.
Absolutely. And what I was going to say is, when it comes to quick, weight loss and quick weight loss solutions or anything like that, at the end of the day, what a lot of people don't see, because we get this all the time. They're like, I want to lose 15 pounds in the next month. Can you help me do that? Yes or no? And I'm like, well, here's the deal. It doesn't work that way. You have to learn, like you said, the mindset work along the way. You have to learn how to navigate holidays, how to navigate, different vacations or different phases of life. Because when you're in the thick of it all, when you're understanding how to best fuel your body or how to best train for what it is that you're trying to achieve, that's what makes the process a long-term effect, meaning you're going to get to a point where if you're looking for weight loss, you can lose the weight and keep it off for good, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, coming full circle here, if you're like, you know what, Vanessa, I do want to buy myself a Gucci bag, have it in mind, I know what I want, and I'm going to do it, but you don't even know how to start with budgeting. You don't really know anything about what to do with your finances. You just don't really know how to get there. Like, what is the logical step you would probably take? You might hire a financial advisor, or you might, invest in some form of like course to teach you about money management. You're going to know that you need to reach out for help. You're going to have to outsource. You're going to have to learn that skill. Guess what, guys? It's the same thing with our bodies as well. We don't magically unfortunately, we don't grow up really being taught properly how to take care of our bodies. And there's a reason that there is a huge industry on that, really just like capitalizing on the fact that people don't know how to do this stuff. And yes, we are within that industry, but we really do try to go about this the right way of not just, capitalizing on people not knowing how to do that and like keeping them like in your web forever, getting them into like that membership program where now they're just like paying you forever for the rest of your life and relying on you. No, we actually try and empower our clients so that they can have the tools to actually do this on their own and really not just get the results, but maintain them for life.
Yeah.
Because that's what matters.
Absolutely. And honestly, I'm guilty of this because this happened to me, for forever, for as long as I can remember, as long as I've been trying to work on my health and fitness. I would sit back and I hear this sometimes too is, people would be like, so what do you do? Or like, what are you trying to do? I'm like, well, I eat healthy, I work out. I just don't know why I can't lose weight, right? And I didn't know that when I said I eat healthy, I really maybe was eating more nutrient dense foods, but I wasn't eating the right amount of nutrients for my body and my goals. So I would just kind of blanket statement like, yeah, I eat healthy. There's something wrong with me, or there's something wrong with the approach. But it wasn't until I started working with somebody that really knew what my body needed to be intaking in every day that I started to see the difference. And, it was small things like, upping your protein and changing a few things here and there, but it wasn't like a total like 180 transformation, like you can't eat this or you can't eat that. It was more of like, okay, what are you currently eating? Let's change the portion sizes, or let's change the meals that you're eating to get you to where you want to go. And it's hard for somebody to understand that, that somebody that is already eating clean or healthy now, they're like, I just don't know what to do. And they're like, tell me what to eat. And I'm like, well, when I talk to people, I'm like, we can't tell you what to eat, because the more we restrict something or if we tell you a specific meal plan, there's always going to come a point where you won't have access to a certain food, or you're going to be on vacation. And or the one thing that I like to joke about is like, are you really going to want to have a meal plan when you're in the nursing home eating your applesauce? And the answer is no, absolutely not. So instead, we'd rather teach you how to best fuel your body so you can make the decisions on your own. Exactly. And that's kind of what I've learned along the way.
Yeah. And I honestly, I'm so proud of you to have gotten to this point, because a few years ago, you know what, guys, he was still struggling with that. Yeah. He really did want to try to do it himself.
I still do at times because, like you said, there's so much out there. There's so much confusion, and we've never really learned it. So it'd almost be a little more weird if you already knew how to do all this, right? And having never done it before. So it takes some time. It takes expert advice, and it takes somebody just being in your corner, navigating you through all this stuff.
Yeah. And you guys, he's also a man, and men typically don't like the help.
Yeah,
you all know,
absolutely.
Because I know women are way more usually eager to invest in themselves and get the help they need. And a lot of times it's, husbands or boyfriends, fiancés that sometimes will be like, but really, like, you can do it yourself, or I can coach you, I can help you. And oh man, we all know that doesn't really work out.
And I had to admit this, but when it comes to guys' bodies and women's bodies, you guys are so much more complex, and with the baby stuff you got going on.
With the baby stuff.
This is where I lose some audience.
We're just,
people.
let's.
But for guys, it's easier when it comes to weight loss. We don't have a period. We don't have a, all this complexity to us. So it is a little bit easier. But even if you ask most of the people that are like, hey, like that look very fit, like, what are you doing? Like, to a certain extent, they know what they're putting in their body and what it does to their bodies.
Exactly.
They're not just eating on a whim.
Yeah. And you know what, guys, like I don't plug our coaching services on these podcasts very often because that's not the point of these podcasts. I really just want to help people and put out free quality information. But since I do love our podcast listeners and I really ultimately just want to help you guys, I will let you all in on a little scoop here. A few weeks ago, we actually opened up 8 spots for women who are just really wanting to lose that 10, 20 pounds, feel better in their bodies, lose the bloat before the end of the year without having to, sacrifice enjoying the holidays, without having to cut out their favorite fall drinks, their pumpkin spice lattes, their pumpkin pie, or missing out on their Christmas desserts or Thanksgiving desserts, all these things. I really want people to enjoy their life and get the results and feel better in their body. And I announced that on Instagram that we opened up those 8 spots. And I was also planning on sharing it on the podcast as well. But with that one single announcement, those spots filled up pretty quickly, faster than I was able to actually share it on the podcast. But I value our podcast listeners, and I really want to just give all of you the chance really to get in on this opportunity too. So I am opening up 4 more spots. So if you are interested in learning more, you want to be able to lose 10, 20 pounds of body fat and bloat before the end of the new year, go into 2023 actually feeling like your best self ahead of the whole new year, new me crowd, then go ahead, click on the link in the show notes below and fill out our brief coaching questionnaire. And then once you fill that out, we'll get notified and we'll be in touch with you right away so we can schedule our totally no obligation, completely free strategy session consultation call where we'll talk about what that could look like for you and see if we would be a good fit from both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I hate to even be so pessimistic, but when it comes to this time of year, it can be so hard, especially, if people are in the States, like with Halloween coming up, with Thanksgiving, with Christmas, navigating those holidays and knowing, like you said, how to have a budget or just have a plan in place so that you don't end up in a worse situation than where you are now is what is going to make the biggest difference, I think, because come January, you're going to have already been making progress. You're going to be feeling, on your way to regaining your body like you want. And then come January 1st, you can just continue to make progress as opposed to digging yourself out of a deeper hole and then being like, what the heck? Why is this not working?
Exactly. So don't sleep on this because those 4 spots are going to go fast, you guys. And you know that you're going to be looking back on New Year's Eve and either thankful for taking that first step and making that decision, or you're going to be wishing that you had started now. These months are going to pass either way. Either you take action or you don't. The time will still pass.
And that's what Gucci has to do with fat loss.
Yeah, exactly. So go find that link in the show notes if it's something you're interested in learning more. If not, we'll be back next week with more free content for you guys.
See you guys.